thank you all, as usual, for joining us once a week in our Home Builder webinar series. My name is Melissa Garland with Atlas RTX. I'm the Vice President of Client Development here. We have this weekly series to try to raise issues that are important to home builders, new home builders, all kinds of home builders, and old home builders can do that? I suppose not. And talk about what we're dealing with in this industry. And today, we're going to talk about your website post-crisis, what needs to change. So we've done a lot of discussions around reopening your business based on the stages, red, yellow, green. That kind of examination is happening all over the web right now. We wanted to get specific, and we want to talk about techniques that you'll need to employ to ensure that your website is the most effective tool in your arsenal for communicating with prospective online home buyers. So I'm excited today to have Meredith Oliver, owner of Meredith Communications, with us, and Jennifer Walsh, the marketing manager at Pacific Lifestyle Homes. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here and for answering
a
critical question. And let's just start with some introductions. Meredith, do you want to start and tell us a little bit about your work, your background in home building?
Yeah, absolutely. So Meredith Communications, we do digital marketing for home builders. Been doing that since the earth crusted with rocks forming. No kidding. Almost 20 years. We've been assisting home builders and helping them with their digital. And our big focus, everything we do is around lead generation and lead conversion to getting them from online to on-site.
Very nice. And Jennifer, tell us a little bit about you and Pacific Lifestyle.
Yeah, so I'm the marketing manager at Pacific Lifestyle and Garrett Custom Homes. We build homes throughout the Pacific Northwest, so Seattle Metro and Portland Metro markets. I guess that's kind of about it. We build about 350 homes a year.
Busy. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And we're going to get into what each of you have done and learned in your experience with your websites for this industry, which is exciting. And as we do that, obviously, for those of you who are listening in, please feel free, as always, to throw questions into the Q&A pod or into the chat pod. We will answer them as we go. And if we do run out of time in our 45 minutes, we will stick around and answer any of them after as well. So let's jump in. The aging exercise of talking about how long it's been, Meredith, seems to actually be an interesting place to start for me as well, which is, I did a little digging into this, and did you realize it's been almost 25 years now that companies started to recognize that you really have to have a web presence. It's critical. At that point, the home building industry was probably a little bit behind in that thinking, right? Just hasn't been we all acknowledged home building not necessarily the forefront in terms of marketing, digital marketing technologies. No slam, just a reality. And what was interesting though, was I took a look at the history on the little history research on real estate. And I learned that multiple listing, that term, was actually first used by the Board of Realtors way back in 1907, okay, which is fascinating. But it wasn't until almost 100 years later that Realtor.com, which I believe you know something about, Meredith, launched as a public website and began to aggregate listings online. And that was really kind of the first digital revolution, I think, in the home building world. It was about 8 years later. Zillow started, 2004. And then somewhere in that period, 96 to 2004, is when home builders really said, okay, we got to get online. Right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how websites have evolved for home builders in that sense then?
Yeah. So in 1998, I went back to school for a graduate degree in internet communication technology. The internet was really starting to become a consumer, broadly used business tool. And so I thought, well, this is where I'm going to get a master's degree. And just about that time, the Home Builders Association of Orlando hired me as director of communications. So that's how I learned home building, was through my local HBA, being on staff there. And then to your point, in 2000, Realtor.com hired me. It was a division of Realtor.com called Homebuilder.com, but it was, the parent company was Realtor.com, and they hired me to be one of their first salespeople to take the book of homes for sale. Yes, we used to publish a weekly magazine that went in all the grocery stores,
Right.
of all the homes that were for sale in new construction, and take that book and put it online. And that's what I was hired to do, was help that transition. They liked that I was going to school for this technology thing. And they were like, okay, and you know a little bit about home building, we'll teach you the rest. And there we went, right? And so initially it was, how do we get all this information online? It was just a matter of understanding even the technology part. And then something crazy happened. So as we went through year after year, then social media hit. And I often say that the evolution of social media is really when we took our next huge step forward. And what it did to home builder websites was, it's no longer just a brochureware. It is now a place where we expect to really kind of communicate with you and get to know you more on this more personal level, because that's what social media really did. So I'm going to pull a slide up here, share my screen, show you guys this slide. Let's make it full screen. So some of you have been around long enough to remember what Dave Stone originated back in the 70s in our industry called the critical sales path. And we call it that, and it's something, it's legendary. We've used it for years. And what happened when social media hit with builder websites is, all of a sudden this meet and greet step moved from person to person. I'm in the threshold of your model home or sales office, to online. I now expect to meet and greet you online through your website. And that's when I worked on one of the very first online sales counselor programs in the country, found it, figure it out, implement it, because you needed a person behind the website to literally kind of reach their hand through the monitor and say, hi, welcome to Pacific Lifestyle Homes, to do the meet and the greet, right? To give it the high tech of the website and the high touch of a person. And so that's where we've been until 9 weeks ago. And then 9 weeks ago, coronavirus drop kicked us all into, not only now does the website need to meet and greet, it also needs to discover, qualify, and it also needs to present, demonstrate, better overcome some objections. And it, in some cases, CBH in Boise, Idaho comes to mind, where they're doing a complete sale online, even needs to close. So when we answer the fundamental question of today's webinar, what's changed? Well, part of me wants to say really nothing, in terms of, I mean, the website should have been the center of your business 10 years ago. And that's right. I mean, we've been saying this all along. Maybe what's really changed is the buyer's expectation, or what they're willing to accept. And they want you to interact online much further into this critical sales path than what we're used to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Jennifer, I assume you can validate a bit of what Meredith is saying.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, our websites we have redone recently, but overall we didn't change a whole lot on our website when all this hit. It was just watching the data that we're getting to make sure it's as user-friendly as possible, because people aren't leaving their houses. You don't get that first impression in a model home anymore. That first impression is your website, and they're visiting hundreds of websites in this 9 weeks of lockdown. And if yours isn't up there, if yours is not leaving that impression, they're not going to remember you tomorrow.
Yep. So briefly then, you know, one of the things that comes to mind for lots of people back when websites were started, and now frankly in our space where chatbots come along, is the fear that it's going to kick a salesperson out of a job, right? And I did want to address that real briefly and ask you how both of you have seen the impact of these kinds of technologies on sales teams. Meredith, what's your take?
Well, I think that our salespeople are very safe and secure in the need for them, as long as they are approaching this from a perspective of adding value and being a resource. I mean, I look at data all the time where on average, a website visitor will spend 12 minutes in an interactive floor plan. 12 minutes. That's why I'm saying we're now all the way through the critical sales path to present, demonstrate. I mean, your website is presenting your product. Now, so why do I need a salesperson? Well, because they looked at 10 of them and it's confusing. And I start to compare them and I get, you know, ABC Homes' patio accidentally mixed up with CDEFG's builder's family room. And now I don't really have the pricing right. Like, it's very confusing. So if you're in sales and you can help people specifically with the skills of clarifying, of helping them narrow down what they really need, I think that is essential to this. And salespeople are so safe as long as they're doing that. Right. But if they're approaching it from, this is the ABC, you know, this is the oak floor plan, it has a kitchen, like this Vanna White on Valium stuff, right, is not going to cut it because I can see that for myself.
Yeah, right. And are you seeing the same thing there at Pacific Lifestyle?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I think the big part is like, yeah, the websites are covering that present and demonstrate thing very well. We don't need a Vanna White, but you are an expert in your community. You're an expert in our homes. And if you provide that, then you are going to show your worth. Someone last year at one of the seminar or one of the conferences I attended had mentioned that technology will not replace salespeople, but salespeople who do not embrace technology will be replaced.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big thing. If you have salespeople that are really struggling to embrace technology, they feel very challenged right now. And so as long as you are helping them get there, you're providing them with the tools to be able to do what they're doing, their expertise is invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, as the head of sales myself, if someone hands me a bucket of leads, half of which are, you know, I have to sift through all of them to find the best ones, that's a lot of work I don't want to do. If you hand me a bucket of leads of all people who've said, hey, I'm ready to buy, you know, gosh, I like that. Thank you very much, right? So it's an interesting way to, I think we need to help folks think about it. So, and that's the role the website can play when it's done well, which is what we want to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about the technologies that are being used on websites. Some have been around for a while, some are relatively new, and you know, and all of it is now wrapped into this cool new term that we call prop tech, right? So property technology, and it's about the disruptions that are happening in the world of technology that's facilitating the online buying and selling of homes. Some of them are used as part of the home buyer's website, as we know. So what prop tech should builders be using on their websites today? And Meredith, maybe you could start us off again with kind of the pieces of the puzzle. I think you prepared a slide here to talk about, for example, website management. How important is a CMS system? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I think that many of you, when you logged in today, might have been thinking, what's changed? Well, what they're going to say is we all need virtual tours on every page. Like, your mind automatically goes to the technology of this. And that's good. We all need to be thinking about the technology, but I want you to use the tools that make sense for you and your business. And that's why I'm not just going to give you a must-have list of you all need these things. Because if you're a custom builder, if you're built on your lot, if you're production, it really could depend on your target audience, et cetera, et cetera. What I'd rather you do is think about that first slide I put up conceptually and ask yourself, for our target audience, for our product price point and location, what tech tool would help us present, demonstrate to the best, to show our product to its best? Does that make sense to everyone? What do we need visually on the website to get people through present, demonstrate, so we don't get eliminated? Because that's what's going to happen is people are going to go on Zillow, where there's 30 photos per listing, where they can do the Zillow 3D walkthrough. And your competition is other builders, but it is also Zillow, where visually I can see so much about that home and get through that critical sales path way deep in before I contact anyone. So I just wanted to set that conceptual understanding for everybody. Now, as we dive into tech tools, yes, I want to start right here with your website CMS, upper left corner. How flexible, how easy, how fast can you manipulate your website in-house? This is something we take a lot of pride in at Meredith Communications. It's one of our core beliefs about a builder website and how we operate with our clients. We want you to be able to do as much as you want to do in there and have as much control as you want. And if you don't want it, that's okay. But how are you going to, respond in a pandemic and when speed is everything against, your competitors, when you need to get a bunch of photos up or a bunch of virtual tours up, you need to be able to get that content on those pages yourself and not wait 10 days for an account rep to get it done for you at your webmaster.
Boy, that's the truth. And can you give kind of a broad sense of, for companies that don't have them, and there are still smaller, I believe, builders out there who don't. I've spoken to some of them myself. And how hard is it to get started with a CMS? Is it a huge expense, or does it have to be, in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's built into the website when it's built. So if you don't have one that's flexible and easy for you to use now, the next time you go to build your new website, this should be one of your main criteria when you select someone to do it, and then just look at what are their price ranges. I mean, you can build very simple sites for a few $1,000s, but they still have a CMS, though it doesn't have to be a $100,000 investment to get a good flexible CMS. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. So it's just something for you. The next time you go to build the site, think speed, flexibility, and management. Now, if you're small enough that you don't have anybody in-house to do some of these tasks, then this might not be as important to you, right? But I think moving forward, where every size is going to need somebody that can help them move faster than an outside vendor is going to be able to do.
Right. So then let's move ahead a little bit in terms of what drives the initial customer engagement with a site, right? So obviously people find your site by virtue of any number of means, from digital advertising to Zillow to any of these other kinds of listing sources. But once the customer gets to the site, what is it that makes a site good quality, highly engaging, and what do you think is most critical to have on your site to ensure that you get that engagement? Maybe Jennifer, you could think about, and because you've just redone your site, right? So what was the top of your list in terms of tools to engage visitors to your site?
I mean, ultimately, I could list 100 different things you need, but you just need content. You can't just have one rendering and expect that to sell a home on your website. You can't expect one rendering to be engaging. You need photos, you need renderings, you need elevation shots, you need floor plans, and it doesn't have to be interactive. It doesn't have to be the most expensive thing on the market, but you can't get someone to engage with one single image and 2 paragraphs of text. And I've seen builders who don't even have 2 paragraphs of text. It just says square foot, bedroom, and bathroom, and they're expected to almost present themselves this image of a 2D floor plan that is incredibly difficult to grasp if you don't stare at those all day long.
Right.
So just as much content as you can put out there. That next level is definitely that virtual technology. For us, it was having interactive floor plans, IFPs, Matterport tours, as many videos as we can get out there, whether they're floor plan videos, community videos. We wanted people to have multiple avenues to engage and really become interested before they even had a chance to walk in our model home, because that is what they're doing with other builders if they're not doing it with you.
Jennifer, are you measuring like time on site or watching for any of those metrics to sort of see how your visitors and assess their engagement with you?
Of course. Time on site is a pretty big one overall, or just time on certain pages, landing pages specifically. So if you're driving traffic to a specific page, through AdWords, social media, anything like that. I mean, ideally, when they click on that ad, they're going exactly to the page they want to view. So they might not always view another page. If that floor plan is actually what they're wanting, it's actually in their price point, I would rather them be on that page for 5 minutes, interact with all the content we have with it, and then maybe view about our builder, or just click on the GPS address and visit our model home.
Yeah, right. And so have you identified then in that process of looking at all this, what is it that has been most effective in that engagement, in getting people? I mean, you've mentioned content, but can you be a bit more specific about that?
Yeah, I mean, social media has been a big driver on getting people to our website, because it's one of the first places you can put that content out and get in front of a lot of people's eyes before they ever visit your website, and maybe before they ever even hear about you. I think today more than ever, people are on social media way too much during the day. And so you have quite an opportunity to be in front of their eyes. So making that content right there as appealing as possible to get them through to your website is super, super important. But I mean, the other things you really need to look for is kind of that registration conversion rate. I mean, if people aren't registering on their website, chances are you're not driving the right traffic to your website. So you either your social media ads, your paper ads, something's not right. Whether they're hoping to have a $200,000 brand new home built in a market that most of our homes are sitting at $500,000, or they're wanting a 5-acre piece of property for $50,000 to build a custom home on. I mean, something there is just not lining up with the people you're attracting. As well as use your Google Analytics. Your Google Analytics can tell you a lot of things. A big one that we have set up is just goals. So we can see people who interact with our IFPs, and we can look at specifically their metrics, IFPs, interactive floor plans, or just the number of people who download brochures. I mean, that might not be a registration conversion, but if you look at that number and all of a sudden see a huge decrease, there's an issue. But if you see a huge increase, you should additionally be seeing more registrations coming within the next, ideally 7 to 10 days, as they continue to interact with your website and learn more and become more interested.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And I would love to know, if it's all right, I'd like to ask you, Meredith, to talk a little bit more about this kind of broadly across your clients that you work with. And then Jennifer, I'd love to know if you were able to articulate any maybe specific examples that you might share of something that maybe you shifted and you found that it worked really well, or something that could give some insights to visitors. But Meredith, how do you look and see this across multiple clients, and how where's the priority around the tools and the pieces of this puzzle?
The biggest lift we see with time on site, increasing lead conversions, meaning phone calls, emails, live chats, happens when we add one of 3 pieces of content. 1, interactive floor plans. The minute we add interactive floor plans to a site versus the 2D flat thing that Jennifer mentioned, we will add minutes upon minutes to the site, time on site. It's crazy what happens. And what the salespeople then tell us when we circle back and get sales involved and have like a call with the whole team is the minute those get added, back when our model homes were open, they say people started coming in with their printouts of what they had created using that technology, and what a different conversation it is. Now that all happens on live chat with tools like yours with the online sales counselor until we can get back to face-to-face. So that's one of the 3. The second would be video. The minute you add, whether it's a drone video, a community overview video, a driving, like where you set the cameras up and you drive through, and get that view from the car video, like really any kind of video, you'll add 1 minute to 2 minutes of site time per page. And then the third would be the interactive site maps, where I can get that, again, aerial view down of the lots, what's available, what's sold, where's the amenity center, and then on each home site, we don't call them lots in marketing speak, each home site, what's the view of that, what plans fit on that. Again, all of these things I'm talking about are what we used to demonstrate person to person, but now I can really gather a lot of that online, and if you're competing with 2 other builders that have already invested in those things and they have them and your site doesn't, or you make me work for it or call somebody for it, you might get eliminated and I move on with the other 2 just because I have more to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it used to be, and I know it still actually is true, that the wonderful phrase in real estate, which is location, 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 right? And we know that people get set on a location. That's where I'd like to live, right? And yet it seems that's where this question is interesting for me, because given what we've just said, there might be a location of homes here and a location of homes with another builder there that are actually not that far from one another, that still facilitate the same location that I'm interested in, that might then result in me, well, it was just easier over here to buy than it was over there, or to get
100%. And if you think about the way that our brains work, our brains seek context.
Right.
Our brains need to understand the big picture of what am I looking at? And that's why, yes, we're talking about the technology you need on the website, and Jennifer said it right, the content that you need. What I want to stress today is what's changed. Well, this needs to be visual content that gives me context.
Very nice. Yeah.
Okay. So when I get a video filmed of you as you drive through, and I now have the context of what it will look like when I get to drive again and come home from work and enter my community at the end of a long day, and what will it look like and feel like, that context gets me to call you.
So
right?
Interesting. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Makes
So
much
whenever
sense.
I'm looking at online, you guys, I think the way a lot of builders think, and this is okay, is you're so drilled down on a floor plan, but I'm not there yet. I need to understand, what does this piece of land look like, feel like, as an overall experience?
Yep.
Then I might narrow based on my lifestyle and space needs, right? So and again, everything you guys have always done on site, it works online. It really does. What you do offline works online. You just have to translate it. And for years, we've taught salespeople, we sell macro to micro in the model home. We sell the area, the lifestyle of that area, the overall location. Then we get to the community and sell it. Then we narrow down a home site and a floor plan, right?
Yeah.
So this is the context I'm talking about that online has to provide. And that's what Jennifer and her team are so good at doing, because both of their sites are so rich with that visual content.
That is so really fascinating. And Jennifer, are you finding, tell us a little bit about creating context for your website visitors.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing going into 2020, which that was pre-COVID when I made up my mind, but my marketing motto was, let's build a way for them to experience building a brand new home. I wanted my websites to demonstrate that. We wanted our social media to demonstrate that. We wanted any content they interacted with. And that could have just been in our sales galleries. I mean, we're working on doing a big revamp there. It doesn't just have to be your website, but we wanted people to feel like they were experiencing building a brand new home. You can't do that with a 2D floor plan. And I'll take the fact, you and I probably can. We stare at them all day long. But you really have to get into your buyer's shoes. And these are people who, they're making probably one of the biggest investments of their life. They don't stare at floor plans all day long unless they've been looking for a home for a few years. They need as much context to, like what Meredith said, to really be comfortable in their decision to move forward. And that moving forward could just be sending their email address to you and asking for more information. That's not necessarily a sale.
Which if Melissa, if I can jump in, really gets us to our fourth circle on this slide, because the overwhelming trend, another place we kind of got drop kicked into, we need to move faster to match our market, is this communication change. Because I have been tracking for over a year a decline in email lead types, of email as a preferred communication channel. We just are inundated on our email. And I was worried that our overall lead generation was down as an industry until I figured out, no, the channel changed and it's live chat. It's texting and calling. is where the communication seems to be preferred now, and particularly live chat. Our clients' live chat numbers since COVID are through the roof. It's insane. We've all had time and been eating our favorite snack and watching Netflix and chatting with builders, I guess, because we're just using that so heavily as a way to get more information about something. Yeah. So when we talk about prop tech and having a complete set of tools, you could have a fabulous CMS, you could have a ton of great content, video and interactive, but do you have a way for people now to talk with you in real time? Because eventually I am going to shift from the critical sales path online to quote unquote offline, even though I'm using an online tool, and I want to talk to a person. So what's that look like?
Well, when someone wants to talk to a person, the most important thing is they want to talk to a person in that very minute.
Yeah.
The buyer's mindset isn't, I want to send an email and get a response in 48 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
We email all day long. But if I open my husband's email, he has like 17,000 unread emails. That is not a communication tool with him because it's just over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's where, you know, having the online sales counselor and the tools like yours at Atlas, I mean, these things have to bring the whole thing together, or you're going to miss up. Your wheel is going to be lopsided, or your stool's missing a leg, or whatever analogy you want to use.
Right, right. It is interesting, and my boss would be very upset with me if I don't raise the fact that, you know, the live conversations are definitely critical. What we're seeing happening in our world is that people want to ask questions about, they want to get answers in a different format, to your point, Meredith. They want to get their answers much like they ask Alexa in their house, right?
Of course.
They would like the bot to give them an answer in a format that they're familiar, like, you know, that's comfortable for them, basically a chatting format.
That's right.
Before they then talk to a human. So the space that we're playing in is crossing that line. So the version where we can have the opportunity for you to engage in an automated format. And when you're ready, then get to have the live chat. So that's like kind of, for us anyway, it's like the beautiful combination.
Yes. And the point is that there is a conversation happening.
Yeah.
There is availability for that to begin. And where some of our clients have most effectively used you and services like yours they've got high volume chats. They've got so many chats and it helps them. They can't even answer them all. So some of them, so they're using your technology to get it going all hours of the day, get conversations going, get people warmed up so their person could then interact, but it's, you know, it's needed. So with what I'm saying, I don't mean to imply has to be human. It's just the ability to converse, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So what's really cool about this is how much we're seeing this shift happen in a way that, like, the technology and frankly, COVID, right? It's all pushed itself together at a time when I think if COVID had happened even a couple of years ago, I don't know that the market would have been ready, right? To handle a lot of the stuff, which is really interesting. So, but let's talk about the next step in this, which is really challenging, which is the execution, right? Which is, how do you bring this stuff to life? And, you know, it's easy to talk about how fantastic these technologies are or could be for you, but it can be very, very hard to execute them. And I know that both of you, when we talked earlier, have identified some of the key principles for thinking about the technology and how to execute it. And so, Jennifer, I just wanted to kick it over to you and see if you could share with us how you've thought about principles for outlining your adoption strategy and execution.
Of course. I think the most important part is that anyone on your website and your sales team have easy access to all the information you have available. If your website is not easy to navigate, but your competitors is, you can guarantee that all those really good numbers you want to see in analytics are going to be on their website and not yours. On the flip side of that, all the same technologies we're rolling out on our websites, our Matterport tours, our IFPs, our videos. Our salespeople are using in virtual meetings. We're in Washington State, so we were shut down for construction for 4 weeks. I mean, we really weren't operating our model homes. And if my sales team didn't have access to that same information that the buyer already has, and that the buyer probably has already seen, it's gonna almost make us look stupid. And I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever. But if the buyer can find information easier than my salesperson can, and they can navigate it easier, then we have a whole new struggle. Yeah. And so that execution, I mean, that was the key point, is making sure everything was where it could be found easily for everyone involved.
Right.
And then
so easy access to information, that's number one. Where do you go from there?
Speed. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is trying to find a way to execute as quickly as possible across the board. For us, that entailed, we brought in a little extra help. We found people, not everyone on our staff was working as hard, just because, like, our customer service team wasn't operational. We couldn't do warranty checks because construction was not allowed to operate. And so we were able to kind of shift people in the office. Not everything requires people to be able to work in the back end of a website. Some of it is simply data entry, and it's super easy. And so find people within your organization, find temporary help, just to get all those projects done. We use a system called ClickUp for project management overall. That is super helpful when you're just trying to integrate multiple different players in the game. And so just having a way to stay organized and having enough people to get the work done as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah. Okay, great. So I love thinking about this way. So question, do we need this tool? A, does it enhance access to information? Yes or no, right? Does it help us speed information to customers, or deliver faster on what we want to do? So you found tools to help with that. I think you also mentioned at one point that you wanted to make sure that to improve to improve speed, you needed to shift the way decision making happened in the organization too. Is that right?
I mean, we had to be able to, my team as a whole, we had to be able to make certain decisions on the fly. We have a 90% is better if it's executed well than 100% that takes too long. And so sometimes you had to make a decision, you had to get it done. If it wasn't right, we can go back and change it. But having something there was better than having nothing at all.
Yep. Perfect is the enemy of delivery, right?
Yeah, and I think
okay.
The next one, which is just streamlining everything a little bit. You really have to make a decision that is best for everyone involved, and 100% execution that takes 3 months is just not always feasible. I got a sales email the other day from Rumored, if you know who I'm talking about, and they rolled out a new product, and their big pitch of all of it is they can have it to you in 24 hours, and it's a digital virtual kitchen experience of being able to design your kitchen. That 24 hours is that key player, because I can guarantee you everyone in the market is inundated trying to create all this digital content. You're probably looking at 3 or 4 months, maybe longer, to get some of this stuff done. And so the quicker you can get it done, the better it is. I mean, that speed of it and that streamlined aspect is its own positive result.
Right. And so as you look at technologies, one of the points of consideration is, will it streamline processes that otherwise were not, right? Yeah. And then you talked a bit about how we get technology to be useful, right? Like we've seen this many times, right? If we have a product which benefits sales teams, and to the discussion we've had earlier today, if the sales teams aren't using it, it sits there and languishes, and somebody's paying a lot of money and is not very happy about that. Yeah. So, I mean, Meredith and or Jennifer, you want to speak to this idea of how do you assess technology and make sure it works for you? Sorry, Meredith, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I have a one-click easy rule. If whatever it is, from a free app on my phone to a Zoom technology to whatever it is, when I try to start using it, if in a click or two of trying to use it, it doesn't become pretty evident how to use it, then never mind. I think a lot of people have incredible technology guilt, that they think, I should know how to do this. And then they kind of put it on themselves, and then they just feel bad about it, but then don't use it. Stop. Like, don't let go. If it's not easy and intuitive, find one that is for you. And it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It just means that it doesn't make sense to you. So, okay, pick another one. Almost every piece of technology out there has plenty of competitors to choose from. So that's true from CRM to CMS to whatever, you know, there's many choices. So find the one that's one click easy for you. Back on the execution, I really want to make the point for those of you listening in that this isn't just really about the technology. It really is the consistency of the execution that makes the difference here, the lift, shall we say, in your Google Analytics, in your lead conversion numbers. So if you were to sit down and say, okay, we want every floor plan on our website to have the following visual, either video or interactive components. We want to it may take us some time because of the investment, but if we were to start now and we were to say, we want everyone to have a Matterport, we want everyone to have an interactive floor plan, like, do you have a checklist per community, per floor plan, per inventory home of what are the visual content pieces that we want every one of these to have? And it may take us some months to get there. But okay, so then you build your checklist. Then once you have your checklist of what are the pieces we need, now what is the checklist of steps that has to happen for these things to be created? And it's something as simple as, like, Jennifer, at their organization, when we were doing our prep call, you were saying how when you get the list of when something's going to be finished, you then know that kicks off on your checklist of when to order the photos, when to do. So these are the things we've got to align scheduling, which I know is not precise in our business, but just in a general sense, best we can, align scheduling with checklists. And if your marketing team isn't integrated into the construction side, we're working blind. We don't know when to order photos. We don't know when to get a Matterport tour. We don't know when you need new elevations. And then by the time it's already done, now I'm a month behind and my vendor's going to take too long to get it all done.
Right.
So it's these processes of what do we want to have ideally, and then how can we integrate marketing in as things begin to be on that pace, on that schedule of, and then marketing can order them for you, you know, and make sure they're ready. Yeah. So communication. Yeah.
The third most important part of that is have someone responsible for every one of those pieces on that checklist.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's a team effort and my team of 4 just knows it needs done, and I don't know exactly who's specifically doing it or following up with it, you're going to struggle to get it done. And I have a great team. Maybe we want it, but everyone's different. And if you have someone who's responsible for checking our job list every week and saying, hey, these 3 homes are now coming into completion in the next 2 weeks, I'll order photos.
It's that systematic, Melissa, it's that systematic process of the development of the content. I'm telling you, most of you, that's where it's falling apart for you. You know you need these interactive things. You know you do. This has not been any big revelation to you today.
Right.
But the approvals from above to spend the money, that's what Jennifer was talking about. She's empowered that if she thinks a particular quick move-in needs a Matterport, she can order it. She doesn't have to ask somebody to spend $200. That makes sense, right? So it's the empowerment to spend the money has to be democratized, and the process of getting the content created has to be systematized. And then you got to have a website that this can all get loaded onto quickly and easily.
Right, right. It's really great. And of course, we have got a million other things we wanted to talk about. But I'd like to, we're up against time, but I'd like to see if really quick, Jennifer, could you just say, in the recent relaunch of your website, what was the most challenging thing around technology, website technologies, or difficult choice to make, or any issues there, the trade-offs that you had to consider as you went to a new website?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest part of it is we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We have a lot of people with opinions, and they're not bad opinions. And I'm not saying that, but
No.
everyone looks at it a little bit differently. For me, my biggest personal struggle is that my buyer profile in our market is about 30 years older than me. And so what I think is super easy to operate or super kind of trendy and cool looking, our buyers are not getting that same feeling. And so when we have multiple cooks in the kitchen, you have to really find a partner, and whoever's designing your websites, which in our case was Meredith, and she was the right partner for us because she could take all of our opinions and tell us, you know, those are valid opinions, but here's why I think we should do it this way. It's having someone in your court who can take all that information and tell us why it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And maybe make us look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and any
Like
sort of
timeout. You know?
Yeah.
Right. To get everybody to take a timeout. So, okay, Meredith, I'm going to give you the last word. Tell me, like, what's the piece of information about website technology that you'd like to leave this audience with?
I want you all to get involved. This isn't something that you can just delegate and outsource. The more you are willing to partner and get involved and put some work in on your end with your partner, the better outcome and product you're going to create together. And when you do that together, the numbers are amazing, right? So all of that, I think, kind of just brings together what we're talking about here.
That's fantastic. I'm so grateful to both of you for your time and your insights as experts in this field. It's been really interesting to learn more about where the world of websites is going. And thank you all for joining us today for our discussion. We will be back again next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about the state of the industry, a little more going to the economics, where it's all headed. We'll be announcing our guest for next week very soon. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all. Jennifer Walsh from Pacific Lifestyle, Meredith Oliver from Meredith Communications. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Good luck out there and stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.